Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have the latest on the live radar, run for the latest weather warnings. We still have numerous snow and ice warnings issued over the next 24 hours, but for most the cold spell is now winding down. Showers are going to become few and far between, and the temperatures will slowly rise into the weekend as we start to see a bit more of a westerly flow returning. Showers are still there on the live radar at the moment. They're starting to ease, become a little less frequent and a little less intense, and that should ease things over the coming hours and the next couple of days. We'll have to look at that in detail on the latest UKV, as yes, we are seeing a westerly flow pushing back in. And yes, it won't be quite as cold as it's been over the past couple of days, but it still will be chilly, still will be below average, and for some it will probably feel just as cold because we're going to start to see stronger winds, heavy rain, lots of thick cloud, so it's going to make it feel a lot more miserable out there. So temperatures might be a few degrees higher, but the actual conditions we see are going to be pretty abysmal into the start of next week. Progressively though, as we'll see from the longer range into the latter portion of November and maybe even to start December, we could be actually looking at a little bit of a stormy period. It doesn't look at anything too overwhelming at this stage, but definitely looks like we are going to see some strong areas of low pressure in and around the North Atlantic. Again, pretty typical pattern, to be honest, for late autumn, early December. What we've got now is pretty atypical. So yeah, we're going to see more of a westerly flow. Could turn milder, but at the moment, air masses look like they're hovering around average. So pretty unsettled end to November and start to December. And of course, as we'll continue to allude over the coming days, there is a strong signal for blocking and cold weather to return into December, and we're still waiting to see those runs flipping towards that scenario, or if they flip there at all. Long range charts are showing it. Our short to medium charts we look at in our daily videos have hinted at it, but not fully started to show it yet, and we're still kind of bridging that gap, and that's something we'll continue to monitor over the coming days. So remember, if you enjoy my videos, much do like and subscribe. Now, if you start on the live radar, you can see we still have some snow showers, wintry showers around through this evening, calling this around 8:30, but they are starting to ease. Of course, we've got an amber warning still issued across northeast England, but this is expiring about half an hour after I'm recording this video. So for most of you watching this, that has now expired. Yellow warning still issued along many coastal areas where we still have a few showers, and generally where we've seen a lot of precipitation over the past couple of days. Any of that moisture is going to freeze. So into Friday, we don't have any more snow warnings, but we have got a lot of ice warnings, and that's because anywhere that's in showers, even if they've been rain over the past couple of days, could freeze quite readily into Friday morning and maybe even to Saturday morning as well, and that could cause some issues. So at the moment, still showers pushing in, still kind of heavy beefy ones there up towards Newcastle, but they are starting to ease. If we look at the temperatures inland, away from the showers, temperatures are dropping away massively tonight. Look at that, widely lighter breeze, the coldest night of the autumn or early winter so far. Temperatures widely down towards -2 or -3, maybe even -4. -5 in countryside areas. I think we got down to -6 in a few spots last night, and some of those prone spots could get lower than -6 tonight. -8 to -10 is a possibility. Now, if you just look at the past 24 hours snow, this will give us a good idea of where we have seen the most significant snow and how well forecasted the warnings were. You can see the Pembrokeshire Dangler did give quite a bit of significant snow there for southwest Wales. Some quite significant snow down towards Cornwall as well. Again, inland over higher ground, right towards the coast, not much. So few people probably saw this, but nonetheless, still quite a bit of snow. A few showers further inland breaking out. A few across East Anglia, as expected, and then again up towards northeast England where we had that amber warning, we did see quite a bit of snow as expected as well. So that's pretty good positioning of that amber warning in the end. And just generally along the northeast coast there, a lot of snow. Out towards eastern Scotland, probably surprised there's not an amber warning issued for this. We saw some really beefy showers last night into this morning. Here quite widely, looking at 10 to 20 centimetres, and then pretty typically across northern Scotland, Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. So pretty much the main prone spots from a northerly wind. You can see all of them feeding in off the North Sea, the Irish Sea and the Atlantic, all providing that moisture. And you see we've gone from some significant snow in a few spots to very little in the matter of a few tens of miles. Again, a very typical sort of snow distribution here from this sort of northerly wind, and it should be easing over the coming days. Now, if you look at the weather warnings, we're not going to concentrate on any of these in too much detail, as most of these warnings are starting to ease overnight tonight. But what we will look at is the warnings on Friday. We've got these widespread ice warnings issued. So we've got warnings issued for parts of Wales. These are where we've seen showers over the past couple of days for ice into the morning. Could be a few odd snow showers, but mostly for ice. Same for southwest England, very similar warning, again expiring at 11 a.m. Warning across the far southeast of England into East Anglia, heading up towards the East Midlands and northeast England, again until 11 a.m. Northeast England until midday, and then a warning issued for parts of northern Scotland until 11 a.m. So all for ice into the morning. By lunchtime, once the temperatures do creep above freezing, most of the main wintry hazards should have subsided. Now, do have a look at the latest UKV now. You can continue to see those showers pushing in at the moment, but they will ease overnight tonight. It'll be very cold into Friday, but it is going to be drier. Bits and bobs of rain, maybe a bit of snow pushing in from the west, but mainly the dew points are going to rise quite quickly, so majority of this will be rain. Still a cold day though for many in the east. Even into Saturday morning we could see a frost developing. Maybe not quite as harsh as it will be tonight, but nonetheless still frost, and then you can see rain arriving into Saturday morning. It's going to be very cold rain initially as the surface temperatures just hover above freezing, with the upper air temperatures climbing much faster. So it's going to be a very cold start to the day there on Saturday, but temperatures will respond by the afternoon, maybe more mid to high single digits. And that's the same recipe into Sunday. But as I said, even though the temperatures are climbing by a few degrees, going from 3 or 4 to maybe 7 or 8, with the added rain and cloud and wind, it might actually make it feel still like it's 3 or 4. So we do need to caveat that. Yes, wintry hazards are disappearing, but it's still not going to make it feel terribly mild. Lots of rain spiralling there. Into Monday, a bit of a return to a northeasterly for a time, but it's not quite cold enough to see anything too wintry, but it could turn a few degrees colder there into Monday and maybe Tuesday before more of a westerly flow does return. If we look at the max temperatures, you can see this evening, a very cold night. Look at that, widely below freezing by midnight. And as we head into the early hours of Friday, look at that, still by 8 a.m, -3 to -5 for large portions of central and western England, Wales, Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland, and Scotland, maybe down to -8 or -10 in the most prone spots. Even by midday, many areas struggling above 2 or 3 degrees, and by the peak of the afternoon, we could just about get to 3 or 4. You see overnight another frost in the east, not quite as harsh, but still down towards freezing or slightly below freezing, before we start to see the rain arrive from the west. Still a chilly day, still maybe only 6 or 7 degrees, but slowly the temperatures will rise. No frost there for most into Sunday, but still could be an isolated frost in the north or the east. Into Sunday afternoon, temperatures not terribly warm. Look at that, still 4 to maybe 8 degrees, but still feeling really, really chilly. Into Monday, 3 or 4 degrees for the morning. Into the afternoon, 6 or 7, and then the same into Tuesday. Maybe a return to a slight frost there for further northern and western areas by the afternoon. Again, still struggling around 5 to 7 degrees. So still temperatures below average, even into early next week, but they're not quite cold enough. They're a couple of degrees too high to see any further wintry hazards or main wintry hazards. Still, as I said, could be some frosts around that, as we saw, especially further northwards, where we could hang on to slightly colder air. But for most, the main wintry hazards have now expired. Now, if we do have a look at the latest GFS, we see the northerly winds still pushing in at the moment, but fading. We see a westerly flow, but still with a southerly tracking jet, and that keeps cool or cold air nearby or over the top of us. Beyond that, though, look at this. Low pressure starts to gather in the Atlantic for late November and early December. And look at this. It could go incredibly unsettled for a time. GFS, though, starts to build high pressure back in. And this looks like the high could push northwards. Again, we'll have to wait and see. Not really distinctly cold pattern here yet, but it is symbolic of perhaps in a few days' time blocking pushing northwards. Regardless, though, a late November, early December, look at that, really lively low pressure systems coming in off the Atlantic. Upper air temperatures will be oscillating between cooler and milder sectors, so it's not going to be cold, could be chilly at times, but hopefully temperatures do return a little bit closer to maybe even the double digits at times. But to start December, could be a lot of rain coming in there off the Atlantic. The GM is, to be honest, pretty similar. We've got those northerly winds clearing away. A westerly flow returns, but it's slightly tracking jets, so it's still pretty chilly. Out towards day 10, you can see it starts to turn incredibly unsettled. Still a bit of a southerly tracking jet stream, and that means that we're more likely to be in cooler sectors than milder sectors. You see a lot more greens over the top of us than yellows and oranges. So although it is a westerly flow, just with that jet stream sat further southwards, it just means more colder or cooler air masses are involved for us. Just want to take note, look at all the cold air across the Arctic. We go from this to this in the space of 10 days. And that's all that cold air rapidly building above the North Pole as we descend into winter. Already some areas across the Arctic region are now in complete darkness now until late January. And that's what's really aiding that rapid cooling and maintaining that cooling. And this is why I've been saying with this colder spell, if it was 10 or 15 days later, it'd be even colder than it is now, just because those upper air temperatures would have been another couple of degrees colder. And that means if we do see another cold pattern to December, it could be even more potent. But yes, chilly, but turning very unsettled, maybe even stormy. ECMWF to finish, again very similar with that southerly tracking jet into early next week. A westerly flow returns, and then you can see it turns very unsettled and stormy. Unlike the GM, the jet stream sat more over the top of us. This is a pretty typical pest from the west pattern, to be honest. This doesn't look like blocking patterns are imminent at all. I will be completely honest with you here. This is not encouraging this big blue and purple blob towards Canada and Greenland. That's not encouraging for cold weather. So what that does is pushes all the cold air into the Atlantic and just spins up low pressure systems, and that's exactly what we see here. So yeah, this is similar to the GM, very stormy, very unsettled, but perhaps slightly milder. The one thing to note, if we look at the northern hemisphere, you can see blocks are appearing. Now that doesn't mean that's exactly where it's going to appear into December. If this sort of block does appear, it might not be too conducive for cold weather for the UK or Northern Europe. There is always the caveat of that. But you can see it does pretty rapidly form by the end of this run, and I wouldn't be surprised another couple of days on that takes more of a dominant feature. So it's not the models aren't showing blocking starting to emerge. It's just in the latest runs. It's not really aided our side of the pole or influenced us too much, and other than maybe perhaps pushing the jet stream further southwards. But it is very early days. You see the block literally forms in the last few frames of this run, and I wouldn't be surprised if a lot more it happens progressively into early to mid-December. Now, after you finish looking at the latest ensembles, you can see it's still cool, but turning a little bit more unsettled into next week. Longer range for the last couple of days of November, early December. It's still generally around average in terms of temperatures, but moderately high precipitation. So staying unsettled, and it is remaining fairly cool or chilly. Not cold, as I said, temperatures back towards average, but with the rain and cloud, it probably won't feel terribly mild. And you can see that from the dew points. They are freezing at the moment, above freezing for the weekend, but might drop a little bit into the middle of next week, and then generally hover around the mid to low single digits. So still cool, just not terribly cold. And if we finish by looking at the latest ECMWF ensembles, it's pretty much the same. Cool still for the next week or so, but just not quite as cold, and not really got the sort of air masses around for wintry conditions. Close to average there, late November, early December, but looking fairly unsettled, maybe even a little bit stormy there. So we keep an eye on those longer range. I do suspect with everything going on, with the potentially imminent sudden stratospheric warming, we could see some really ropey runs over the next few days and next couple of weeks. Really wacky, inconsistent runs. And we'll try and make some sense of it, and we'll bring you it all, of course, in the daily videos. But yeah, just warn you that we will see some weird stuff going on. Today could be even one of those weirder runs where suddenly all the runs are going very unsettled and stormy. Tomorrow they could be all blocked and cold. We'll have to wait and see exactly how it does play out. But this is, as ever, what happens when we see these big changes high up in the atmosphere. And of course, it's not the norm. It's not the norm. It's not what the models are expecting. And they always do generally try to revert back to what is expected, which is more of a westerly flow, perhaps a slightly southerly tracking jet stream. That's what they expect this time of year. But that's probably not what we're going to see. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.